Now we go. Hey
Oh,
guys, this is Ronnie Fernandez. I'm here with Eugene Durrah, and I want to give Eugene an opportunity to go ahead and introduce himself. Yeah, go ahead, Eugene.
got it. Yeah. So I'm Eugene Durrah. I am a licensed clinical social worker. Ronnie and I attended USC School of Social Work together way back when. Now it feels like a long time ago,
Yeah,
but not that long ago.
yeah,
Um, and uh, and I currently work in Northern California in the North Bay, Solano County. I work as our MHSA clinical supervisor, overseeing contracts, as well as supporting some of our programs that receive MHSA funding, which is from Proposition 63. It's like a millionaire tax on how each county
yeah,
receives funding to better support predominantly our underserved populations and high needs populations. So our FSP, our homeless populations, as well as ethnically and diverse populations that are underserved and vulnerable and experience a lot of disparities as they navigate through our systems of care and really in life overall. In addition, I also serve as our ethnic services coordinator. In that role, I kind of lead our culturally responsive efforts in terms of our strategies for ways that we as a system address those particular disparities. And then part-time, I work for Sac State in the School of Social Work, teaching a course in human diversity and social justice. So that's a little bit about me, but I'm also a
wow,
father, a husband, a son, a brother, or an uncle, and just a person striving to do the best I can, with what I can. So
yeah.
that's a little bit about who I am.
Yeah, I mean, when we met at SC, you definitely stuck out. You know what I mean? Just being able to you rep Compton hard, bro.
Yeah,
You know, I just like
I
Dura.
have to. Even though I'm far away, I still have to, man.
And just what you were doing in your community, and I think with social work, sometimes we get caught up in the academic part and the
Yeah,
theories and stuff, but when you're able to have both of them, that experience of like living living in an area like Compton, and then me living
mhm,
in an area like
mhm.
East LA, there's definitely things that kind of bring us together. It's like, hey man, we
Yep,
kind of see the same thing, and
yep,
so I think that's why we kind of clicked it, hit it off pretty well.
yeah,
And just because we know we understand that this is hard. It's
yeah.
hard.
It is. Yeah, it is, man.
So I wanted to just to talk on how you were able to overcome that. I mean, statistically, saying we shouldn't be here, right? I mean, we shouldn't.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so I think we need to take our challenges and really see how they benefit us later on in life. And
yeah.
what you said about like, professionally, as a father, as a husband, and
Hmm.
balancing this, this crazy time. So
Yeah,
let's start at the beginning, man. I know you were raised in Compton. How? Tell
yeah,
me about that,
yeah.
man.
So I mean, to be honest with you, I have so many different types of memories. Growing up. A lot of good. A lot of bad. Just in terms of different things that were happening in my environment growing up. So I grew up on the west side of Compton, near Rosecrans and Central. I was born and raised on 139th Street. But I moved around a lot, but pretty much all in the same area. So
Mm,
like, typically people move, all right, I moved from, Compton to Lancaster, or you
yeah.
know what I mean, or from
Mhm.
California to Nevada. I kind of moved from 139th to El Segundo, which is right down the street, to Stanford,
Yeah.
around the corner, and then literally down the street to another house. And that's kind of it gives you some insight in terms of like I just really stayed in that area,
Yeah.
even when moving.
Yeah.
But I grew up in a single parent household. My parents divorced when I was young, when I might have been maybe in second or third grade or so. When my parents split up, um, my mother and my second to oldest brother, Lamel, who owns this company, Compton Vegan, uh, we actually moved to Eugene Village, which is right at Magic Johnson Park on El Segundo in Central. And while living in Eugene Village, we actually were like sleeping on the floor. You know, I didn't have anything, nothing to go inside the house. All I remember having was like a toy fire truck. You know, and you know, that gives you insight, and not knowing then, but reflecting on it now, give you insight in terms of how hard it must have been for my mother, you know, during that time. And so some of my earliest childhood memories, you know, start with things like that, to you know, being at festivals or carnivals, like in empty lots, you know, abandoned lots that don't have pretty much nothing in it but some trash and graffiti, where they used to set up carnivals and stuff. And right before it was a Rite Aid over where it is now in Rosecrans and Central, it actually wasn't anything. And with the carnival happening, like literally my first memory was like gunshots happening, you know, being shot out, and, you know, my mom carrying me and my cousin Wayne in her arms, you know, running back because I stayed across the street.
Yeah.
And then, you know, actually talking to my brother until recently, I didn't even remember this, as again, I was a child. But my brother said actually it started off by me being stuck on a ride while this was happening. And I didn't even recall that. And so, you know, that gives you insight in terms of some of the, you know, hardships, you know, and navigating, you know, was always having to be aware of, you know, threats of violence, right?
Yeah.
You know, both from people who look like me as well as people who don't. I actually posted this on Twitter the other day, but, you know, I actually been at gunpoint from Black gangs, Latino gangs, and white gangs. But the only difference is, you know, one group got paid to do it, you know,
Mm.
and that kind of,
Yeah.
and when I reference white gangs, I'm referencing really more so the police,
Yeah.
you know, at the time, you know, growing up. Um, and
Yeah.
so I got a laundry list of things that I could get into.
Yeah.
Some of the positive things I would like to highlight is, you know, the richness of the community, in terms of people supporting one another, you know, looking out for each other, having great neighbors, knowing your neighbor, you know, borrowing cups of sugar from your neighbor, you know, playing in
Yeah.
your neighbor's backyard, you know, taking, you know, like some wood that somebody was putting on top of their trash can to use as a ramp for your scooter, you know,
Yeah.
and them getting hot because you was using their wood, you
Yeah.
know, messing up, you know. So, you know, and just overall, man, like, you know, just overall community, you know, support and love. You know,
What did that teach you? You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
coming from humble beginnings and being, you know, the examples that you share, like
yeah.
how did it help shape you?
It really shapes who I am. It's what I look for now. Like even like elements that I grew up in, I try to look for now in community and try to exemplify, you know, in terms of, you know, the role models that I saw, you know, and then also good and bad, right? So one of the lessons I learned in my household that my mom reiterated all the time, you know, even my older brothers, which I was very fortunate to have, you know, two older brothers that, you know, went on and went to college, you know, which gave, you know, a young man like myself,
Yeah.
surrounded by a lot of people didn't have that same
That's
example, you
that's
know,
a
which
huge
gave
deal,
me,
man.
yeah, it gave me
That's
a whole
huge.
lot of confidence, you know, that, because
Yeah.
I always thought like, man, if they went to college,
Yeah.
I was like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, and that ended up being the only school I applied to. But
Wow.
my mom and brothers would always say, don't be like me, be better than me, you know?
Yeah.
So being the youngest, I actually had an advantage, you know, particularly with their experiences that they had, you know. So some of the stuff that they bumped their head on, I didn't have to experience the same thing. And I also include my older cousin, who's like a brother to me, who lived with us, and it kind of exemplifies that family that I talk about, taking, you know, each other in as just that close knit family. But you know, although he didn't go on to college, you know, is somebody who, with a high school diploma, was able to, navigate, gang banging and getting shot to making 100 racks a year. So I
Yeah.
had really good examples of people who faced adversity, including my mom, and, and so other family members. And so to be able to kind of learn from their mistakes and really try to, make an imprint on this life of my own,
Yeah.
and so I try to use those examples, to strive every day to be better. And so that's kind of what shaped me into who I am. In addition to my mom really being an advocate, in addition to being, a leader and holding it down for our household after our parents divorced, she, really, she worked at Martin Luther King Hospital for years, man, for almost over 20 years. And she always gave back. She didn't graduate from college either, but, she worked in social services departments and, the front desk and helping people, and she's always been, community oriented, even writing her own books and, holding, facilitating poetry readings, in the neighborhood, and giving awards to young Black and brown men graduated from high school, signed by letters signed by the mayors and the presidents, and all kind of stuff that she would do with very little means, and so all of those different kind of examples played a part in shaping and molding me to the person I am today.
Yeah, and those are one of my questions I'll ask you too, and I ask everybody is like, and I think when people try to come up and try to, like, get to their goals, that they have to do it themselves, but there's always people there to help you. There's always people, like, and I talked to a couple of guys and stuff, and it sometimes doesn't click right away, you know what I mean? But like the little words of wisdom, the little examples, they kind of stay with you. It's like, why am I still thinking about this stuff that that my dad said 10 years ago?
It still comes, it comes ingrained into like who you are. It helps mold you, which is the importance of like mentorship, which is like what you started with, the son of Troy, right?
Yeah.
Sons of Troy, while at SC, and just the value of that is just really underrated and undervalued in our society.
Sure.
Sure.
No, it's a big deal, man. We need to go out there. I mean, especially people that come from, I came from the East LA, Alhambra. Like I moved a lot too, the events.
All in East LA too?
No, well, all LA County, but it was just,
gotcha.
It depends how we were doing economically,
We literally was like moving stuff from like, from one house to
the No, we went to my grandmother, then Alhambra, then East LA, and we settled down in East LA and stuff. So it was a lot of moving, man, in Montebello. Yeah, a lot. But yeah, it's a I don't know, man. It's a crazy journey, but I the importance of being out there, and like, I don't like doing this stuff, to be honest with you, man. I'd rather just watch people do it and stuff. I'm like, what, we're really a small minority, man. Of that, that have like a master's and above, so I think we really have to be out there and try to be out there as much as we can. But I wanted, you were talking a little bit about the cops, right? I mean, we have a lot of that stuff going on now. And it's getting, I mean, it's already been bad, and I don't know, man. I mean, where do we go from here? Where do we go?
It's a question that I've been trying to answer, and really get involved in different activities, even professions, that to help reduce and really eliminate these types of things from happening. I actually this morning, in all honesty, I actually shed some tears listening to an interview, of the sister of the man, Ahmaud, uh, and who was just recently, for those who may not be aware, was recently, killed by, a few white men who, while jogging, and it just, and one was a retired cop, I believe,
He was an investigator, I think.
or it's
Yeah.
something of that
Yeah.
nature, but just, it's, and part of me shedding tears is, for one, hearing the pain of the loss of a life, right?
Yeah.
Regardless, I think it doesn't help that this is also another Black life, who and it does impact me,
Yeah.
and it's just senseless violence that seems to be a reoccurring theme throughout my life, honestly,
Yeah.
from people that I know very well to people I've never met before historically that happened prior to me being here, and to people just in nationally, in other communities that definitely it's something that needs to stop, but for whatever reason has not stopped. And if anything, it's now become more highlighted, than when I was even in high school with social media. Right. At
Yeah.
first, it was just growing up, it was just my own experiences.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
I'm living my own experiences, and then the vicarious trauma of others.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I don't know how. I think that's a $1 trillion question.
It is, and
Answer.
it is.
But yeah.
But 'cause, I mean, I remember talking about, because I had some run-ins, as far as
Mhm,
like being pulled over, and I've
mhm.
had guns drawn on my head by cops,
Yeah, yeah.
and it is. I mean, it messes you up, man.
It
And
does. It does.
especially,
Same here.
I grew up thinking, like, man, everybody's the same. Where I was a
Yeah,
good kid. I played football.
yeah,
Oh, but then when you get pulled over, and then in my experience, I mean, I had a cop follow me for miles down,
hmm
coming out of my put my hands up. I look back, man, you just see a barrel like at
yeah,
my head,
yeah,
and then it was just a lot of I don't. It was weird because I felt like, what did I do wrong? And I was just
mhm,
working, you know
yeah.
and getting
Hmm.
handcuffed and all that kind of stuff, and it's just like I
That's
I
so
I
sad, man.
yeah, up to a couple of years ago, I'm gonna say like 5, 6 years ago, I had a really bad anxiety with police officers. I would
Man,
just stutter, hands down,
yeah,
like didn't
yeah, yeah.
didn't want to.
And honestly, I still experience that. When the police pull me over now, I honestly, like, I have my ID and
Yeah,
my insurance already, like, pulled out,
yeah,
along with my hands out the car. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah,
I don't want to give you no reason. And then actually recently when I got pulled over, I feel like anytime, like, I go like a little bit over the speed limit, bro, they catch me. I get no passes, bro.
yeah,
I be like,
yeah,
you hear about people getting passes? I have not got a pass. I'm still looking for that pass, bro.
yeah.
But in,
It's
yeah, yeah, it's wild. And as you were mentioning, like literally for no reason, like you saying that actually gave me chills, because it's like I had that exact experience, like, and I'm sure we could trade stories, back
yeah,
and forth. And I'm not sure if we got the time to today, but which is unfortunate. That we can have that many. But to give you a
yeah,
small glimpse, one time I was in a circle of like maybe like 3 or 4 Black men in my community, and they were older than me. Um, I was the youngest, but I just was curious. I always ask these type of questions,
yeah,
ever since I was young. Like, why are people poor? Why are these things
yeah,
happening? So I kind of
yeah.
did social work.
That's why we got in social work. I
Yeah.
used to ask the same questions, man.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
but so I asked everyone. I was like, what, just out of curiosity, how many times have y'all been pulled over before? Like, just out of
yeah,
curiosity. I had named at that time, I want to say like at least like 6 to 10
yeah,
times.
yeah,
And then everybody else started tallying. And in that like 3 to 4, group of Black men, different ages, but it was like over 100 times.
yeah. I believe it, man. Yeah.
And I just
It
was
it it,
blown
it
away,
missed it.
man. And
Yeah.
back to that story that you mentioned that gave me chills, is that same experience. Like, I had a job interview at Food for Less on Rosecrans and Central, I was the cart attendant. Shout out to all the cart attendants out there. Yeah, so to mop the floors, clean the bathrooms, all that
Yeah.
stuff. So I'm on my way to a job interview for that job, right? Nothing wrong. It did help me, get my little change, pocket change for the weekend and whatnot. But they pulled up. I literally took a shower, got in the car. I started the car. I'm in the driveway, by the way.
Yeah.
And as soon as I start the car, the sheriffs actually drove down the street, and then burnt rubber in reverse. And then hopped out, pulled guns out on me, telling me to put my hands up. And I'm handcuffed in front of the whole, like, everybody. They'll tell you about the community close knit. Everybody on their porch, like, what's going on? Like,
Yeah.
like, he didn't even do nothing. And they, playing good cop, bad cop. Essentially, they end up unhandcuffing me and telling me that I fit the description. They searched the car. I didn't know my warrant. I didn't know my rights. I didn't know that they couldn't come onto the property because I hadn't left the property.
Yeah.
I didn't know none of that,
Yeah.
And I was on my way to a job interview.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people in, Beverly Hills got the same story,
Yeah. It's and I think now it's kind of changed, but if you would tell these stories like 10 years ago, it's funny because I'll get a look like, what? And then like I did something wrong.
Yeah,
Well, you had a shaved head, that's why.
yeah.
Like, oh, well,
Yeah.
you don't understand. Like, you don't understand. Like, at that time I had to shave my head. Like, you mean, like, it was there's no, like, they don't believe it. They didn't believe it
Yeah.
at the time. You know what I mean? You tell these stories and it's just like, it was definitely a different response maybe like 10, 15 years ago, where they didn't believe you.
Yeah.
Nobody, like, that doesn't happen. Yes, a cop maybe pull me over and maybe take off my shoes.
Yeah.
Why? I don't know. Like,
I don't know, man.
yeah, I don't know. It was crazy. So I always had this kind of, for a long time, man. But then I was like, you know what? I have to start getting over that anxiety. So,
Yeah.
they have different meetings here. Like, I live in Downey now, and there's a couple programs where, there's a lot of cops involved in these programs. So I'm like, I have to go. You know what I mean? Like, I have to go build relationships, talk to police officers to bring
Yeah.
down that anxiety. And now it's down. I talk a little bit more. I still get like nervous and stuff talking to police
Yeah.
officers, but it's because it's so easy to get into that, like, that anger, that,
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean, like, you go down those rabbit holes that guys get into. And I
Yeah.
always tell people, like, look, and if you have some sort of some sort of anger towards somebody, or a group of people, any group of people, you
Yeah.
need to find the best part of them. You know what I mean? You need to find
Yeah.
a good
Yeah.
group.
And to me, actually, like, being exposed to, like, my pastor in Compton actually is a sheriff. And so Pastor Rayford Owens, for Faith Inspirational, in Compton. And so it's like being exposed to, people like that, who, just had the best interest of the community, aren't trigger happy folks, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It kind of helps to be able to, understand that there are other people, good people, who are in law enforcement. I think the challenge for me sometimes is, understanding, like the history, how law enforcement came to be,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
In terms of, really, their sole purpose at those times were to really, kind of like the bounty hunters to get, runaway slaves, and this is kind of how the origins of kind of policing began. And then, just the perpetual kind of cycle of violence that we see, targeted, to people who look like me. So I don't know if that anger honestly will ever leave. I have found better ways to cope with it. And then I also, have done work to kind of try to help, law enforcement with better understanding kind of, the biases that we all carry just by existing in a society that is, that feeds us narratives and stigmas and stereotypes about different groups of people, that
Yeah.
causes us to respond differently in our interactions, both from a doctor's perspective to a clinician's perspective to a police officer's
Yeah.
perspective. It impacts us all, and those are difficult conversations to have with law
Man, they are.
enforcement.
They are. I mean, I'm hoping one day we can have those conversations because it's important. Because
Yeah,
I think that's where we're at right now, and it's
yeah,
hard for us to move forward. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's what the difficult part is. And I think once we start moving forward, something like this happens. You know what I mean? And it's
Man,
just like,
I feel like, man, honestly, it's just every year, bro. And
yeah,
then these are the folks that's nationally, what about our folks that don't get national coverage? That it's kind of, um, at times, I mean, honestly, it definitely feels like an endless cycle, bro.
it does.
That is just until we do some major, kind of changes, will unfortunately, still be here. It's become the norm, which is really unfortunate. I don't think people have the same reaction to loss of life,
Mm,
and I
yeah,
think in part of that, with this continually happening, you see the devaluing of Black lives.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Because all you see is death,
yeah,
and which is not a sign of hope,
yeah.
optimism,
And one of my so one of my biggest fears is that it's so with the oppression, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's not it's not so much people are keeping people of color down, like physically down, like all
yeah,
that.
yeah.
It's more mental now. That's my perspective of it.
Uh-huh.
Is like people don't have to say anything. It's just it's already kind of ingrained in a lot of people's heads. Like you know what I'm saying?
I hear
Uh,
what you're saying. Yeah. I think that in regards to oppression, or regards and regarding like changing some of these inequities that we see, I think just my opinion is that they were intentionally put in place,
hmm,
right? So when it comes to, when you think about certain aspects of like where we stand when it comes to income inequality, right?
hmm,
That didn't happen by choice, right?
correct.
There were intentional
Yeah.
policies and practices that went in place
Mhm.
that actually manifested the disparities that we see now, right? And so I think in order to kind of change that, right, and I think the same could be said for other elements of like different forms of inequities, but in order to change that, I think we have to be as intentional, right, in terms of policies, practices, allocation of resources as we were with causing them, if that makes sense. And I think that in itself is a changing, more of a revolution, and really changing the systems in which kind of continue to exist that perpetuates these inequities.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand what you're saying. I do. I just think I think the biggest battle is in ourselves too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think even if we do all the policies that we want and everything like that, I mean, I still think there's been so much damage over the generations
Hmm.
that we have we have to I think start and end with us. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Of
Yeah.
the way that we think, of oh, Mexicans don't do that, Latinos don't do that, Black people don't do that. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then it's like nobody said that. We're telling ourselves.
Yeah, yeah, no, no, no. That's true. I mean, it's definitely an aspect. Actually, it's this trainer and former professor, actually at Syracuse, I believe. Where I'm not sure. I don't remember where he currently teaches, but he actually came to do a training for us. His name is Ken Hardy. And since taking this training, it's caused me to speak more of my truth, and also to think about some of the things that mentally, I was kind of enforcing myself or becoming, uncomfortable in certain situations. For example, the stereotype of like Black people eating, chicken and watermelon, right?
Mm-hmm.
So historically, there's an imagery to that, right? Of
Mm-hmm.
you know, uh, very racist imagery, and that were used in movies and commercials and
Yeah.
things of that nature, right? And so. growing up where I grew up, not around a lot of white people, and only white people actually that I kind of was around were like my teachers or the police,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
people in authority,
People
and never
authority.
really as peers.
Yeah.
And then to now working in an environment where I am one of the only, few, right? And then actually USC was one of my first examples of that as
Yeah.
well. But when it comes to like, I would intentionally not eat like watermelon or
Yeah.
chicken. And he brought up this example in the training. I would do that because I didn't want to be someone's stereotype of what a black male. I was
Yeah.
conscious of that.
Oh yeah,
you
we're
know?
gone. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
It's
and
like,
I'm sure the same could be said about other stereotypes for other cultural
yep.
groups, right?
Yeah.
But he mentioned how this guy at the beginning of a week in a training that he was doing, mentioned that, and then at the end of the week, amongst a group of white people, actually brought a bucket of chicken and some watermelon and was eating it because he liked it, like,
Yeah.
and not really caring because it's unhealthy for us to, to navigate the world always conscious of what others might think. I
Yes.
definitely know there's a personal work that goes along with it. I think, but we can't just ignore, that there are systems in place,
Oh, that's
you
yeah.
know what I mean,
Oh
that
no, I
produce these
think
outcomes. Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. No, I'm not arguing with that, not at all. I'm not. But I think just kind of see how it is now, even, and
yeah,
how we're kind
yeah,
of bombarded of all the negative things that happen.
yeah,
I feel that some people are losing hope in that. You know what I mean?
yeah,
As far
yeah,
as like,
yeah.
if I'm Latino
That's
or
what those
African American,
systems
like,
do.
what was that?
Those systems are meant. That's what they intended to do, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And so it's just kind of keeping that kind of like, what can we do right now about it? You know what I mean? Like, what
yeah,
can we do? How can we
yeah,
make ourselves, have more opportunity,
for sure.
that kind of stuff, than just giving up and saying, nah,
Oh, no, no, that's a fact, and I think that starts, definitely improving our, becoming more aware and educating ourselves on, financial literacy, right?
yeah,
Systems that we previously had no exposure to, right? In terms of like being able to navigate, these particular systems of, retirement and
yeah,
ones, and then like just Roth IRAs accounts and things of that
yeah,
nature,
yeah,
that, and actually another Nas gem, I shared one earlier, but he said, my father wasn't a banker, neither was my neighbor. When it came to getting paper, who the hell was going to train us? And I think that's, we do have
yeah,
to educate ourselves on these different things, even the power of food and nutrition, right?
yeah,
And what we're putting into our bodies that, unfortunately, our areas are mostly dense with, unhealthy food options,
yeah,
and so all the way around, we definitely have the information out there. I think it's on brothers like yourself and I,
yeah.
to help, make sure that everyone gets that information.
Yeah, and it's hard, man. Like we said
It
earlier, like
is.
we're fathers, husbands,
Yeah.
workers. Like we're just trying to make a living and try to
Hmm.
do good things. But
Yeah.
yeah, we definitely have to put I guess doing stuff like this and having those tough conversations, because
Yeah.
we're I don't know too many people, two people that can have this kind of type of conversation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just like, okay, well, I think this and I think that. Like it's
Hmm.
it's it's hard, and I think we definitely have to have some more of these, man, and talk
Yeah,
about it.
I'm down for it, man. Yeah, we can have a part 2 and 3. We got. Yeah, I'm always down for these conversations because I do think it's, for one, it's important to have. It's healthy to have.
Yeah, I think it is.
To be able to process some of the things that we're already thinking about.
Yeah,
And to do
yeah,
so amongst, another brother, is always good. So I definitely appreciate, you even reaching out to do this, man. So yeah, if you want to do another one, man, let me know.
we have to, man. I think it's definitely, because I think right now we're just hearing, oh, the two extremes. You know what I'm saying? We're
Yeah,
always hearing that, and we need something like like a discussion. Nothing
yeah,
like a 15-minute bite of like, this is happening and this, and
yeah,
then you just see, just chaos. It's like, no, we need to have a discussion about like what can we like realistically do, you know?
Yeah, and I think like today, you know, for me in ways that I'm an honor a mod, I'm actually planning to join the mile jog, you know, today with, you know, I'm hoping millions of other people that are going out and running miles in honor of him.
Yeah.
And today would have been his 26th birthday, man.
Wow.
So that's one way that, you know, I
It,
would like to, you know,
yeah.
honor the young man. And then in addition to, you know, continue to I'm fortunate to be in a career that every day I get opportunities to be a part of these
Yeah.
discussions, but and finding other ways as well. So
Yeah, I think doing this helps, and definitely doing that, being you know, positive and something that's going to take action. So
for sure.
yeah, man, thank you, man. I know you're on your lunch
Yeah,
break.
yeah. I appreciate you, my brother.
All right, man, I appreciate you too, bro.
All
We
right.